Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our Healthy Aging series this morning. I'm Marla Gordon, Director of Clinical Services here at Kendal at Home, and we are pleased to have with us today Bentley Ritter, CEO of Benefit Personal Training. He is going to be speaking about osteoporosis and height loss today. And if you're like me, I cannot afford to lose a quarter inch or a half inch off of my height, certainly. So Bentley is going to address what types of height loss and issues related to osteoporosis are part of normal aging, and what are things that we might be able to impact based on exercise and nutrition. So we're happy to have you with us this morning, Bentley. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Turn it over to you.
All right, thanks so much for having me here and giving me the opportunity to speak to your members. As Marla said, my name is Bentley Ritter. My company is Benefit Personal Training, and we provide at-home personal fitness training services. We help people age safely at home and to continue to enjoy all of the things that they've enjoyed throughout the course of their lives. Okay, my computer jammed for a moment and then it went all the way ahead. So let me go back. All right, so that's me. And our company provides the 4 personal training sessions that are included with the Kendal at Home membership to help with building up your strength, as well as reducing the risk of falls in your home. We do that in some of the areas that we serve across the country. And today we're going to talk about height loss. And I've always heard that people get shorter as they get older. Like Marla, I'm a little height challenged. I'm only about 5'6". So I want to maintain as much of my height as possible as the years pass. Now, would like to put a question out there. What kind of height loss do you think is normal and healthy over the course of your lifetime? So, Marla or Susan, if you want to hop in and take a guess, feel free.
Oh, I would guess over an inch would be normal.
Well, you are very, 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 very close. We would say 1 inch. 1 inch is a normal, healthy, expected kind of height loss over the course of your life. If you find that you are shrinking more than 1 inch over the course of your life, then it could be an indication that there are, health or behavioral issues that you need to address to minimize the amount of height that you lose over the course of your life. So when it comes to age-related height loss, there are natural causes, then there are preventable things that we can address. And we're going to spend some time talking about the things that we can all do to stay as healthy as possible and to minimize the amount of height that we lose, throughout the course of our lives. So we're going to talk about a couple of natural causes of height loss. Between our bones, and this is an image of some backbones, and you see that there is cushioning between those bones. That's true about all of the bones throughout our bodies. Now, over time, those cushions start to deteriorate and they hold less fluid, and consequently, you get kind of compressed. That is normal. As long as we live in an environment with gravity, we're going to have to deal with that aspect of height loss. The next thing that we don't have a whole lot of control over is conditions like scoliosis, which is the sideways curvature of the spine. There's some people that are born with it. Sometimes it develops over the course of a lifetime, but there's not a whole lot we can do to address that short of surgery, or sometimes wearing a brace can help to minimize the effects of scoliosis. But those are things that are largely out of our control, without the help of a doctor. But there are absolutely preventable causes of height loss. And, we're going to spend some time talking about those. The one thing is our posture. Now, you see the example of good posture in the middle here. And I'm sure, we all have seen people who demonstrate these examples of bad posture. When your posture is not good, you are naturally going to look a little smaller. And so the goal is for you to shoot for the good posture in the middle, where, your head's up, chest is out, stomach is tight and in, and you want to stand up tall, anytime, you are standing up or even sitting down, you'd want to sit up high. Marla mentioned osteoporosis. Often as we get older, our bones can become less dense. When that happens, they can become brittle and prone to break. Additionally, when the bones are very porous, because of the effects of gravity, they can actually get kind of compressed and collapse down on themselves. And consequently, your bones actually do get shorter. So that's something that can contribute to height loss, but it is something that we do have some control over. So the people who are at greatest risk of osteoporosis, which is bone loss, are people over 50, particularly women after menopause. Men are at greatest risk after the age of about 70. Additionally, people who smoke have a more difficult time absorbing calcium from their diet. And if you are going through cancer treatment, that can also increase your risk of osteoporosis. But there are things that we can do over the course of our lifetime to reduce our risk. After the age of 35, your bone density does start to decrease. As I mentioned, it gets more pronounced after the age of 50. But over the course of your life, no matter when you start, it's a good idea to do weight-bearing exercises. So when it comes to muscles, if you do exercise and you work those muscles, they will tend to get more pronounced and stronger. The same thing is true for your bones. If you do things that basically put a load on your bones, they will get stronger in response, and they will remain more dense over the years. So weight-bearing exercise is, of course, traditional weightlifting. You can provide the resistance through elastic bands. You can do exercises where you're using your own body weight for resistance. But there are also other activities like walking, jumping rope, dancing, anything where, you're up on your feet and you're working against the force of gravity qualifies as a weight-bearing exercise that can help your bones stay strong. We also need calcium in our diets. And for most of the people on this call, the recommendation is about 1,200 milligrams of calcium per day. And you can certainly get that from your diet. But if your diet is not sufficient to get you 1,200 milligrams per day, your doctor may suggest that you take dietary supplements to increase your calcium intake. And lots of foods with calcium, like, of course, everybody knows about dairy products, but vegetables like broccoli have a lot of calcium in them as well. So it'd be great, to include things like that in your diet. We also want to make sure that you have an adequate amount of vitamin D. Your body actually makes vitamin D, and you need sunlight to ensure that that process can occur. So even if you spend most of your time in your home, you want to make sure you get out and you get some sun every now and then. 10 to 15 minutes, 2 to 3 times per week is enough to ensure that your body can make the vitamin D it needs for strong bones. And this little pink bottle here is sunscreen. So we want to make sure that you use sunscreen, anytime you're outside, just to protect your skin, because you don't want to increase your risk of skin cancer. All right. And then finally, if all else fails and your doctor finds that you are losing bone density, they may prescribe some medication to help you address that. So those are things that we can control. Okay, now let's talk about some other things we can do to minimize the risk of height loss. We mentioned posture. All right, so you look at this gentleman, he's got his head up, shoulders back, abdominal muscles are tight, chest is out. He looks more confident. He looks more vibrant. And it's just a matter of changing the way that he is standing. And you will notice he's about 2 inches taller just by standing up. Straight and tall. All right. So I'm sure you've seen people in offices who are hunched over their computer, looking down at the screen. That is not a position that is good for our posture. So if you look at this example over here, you see this individual sitting with a chair that has a back, sitting up tall. Again, the head, the neck, and the back are in alignment, and they're looking more or less straight ahead at the screen. That's a whole lot better for you than looking down at a screen constantly. This is something that'll have you end up with poor posture, neck pain, back pain. So this is the ideal type of arrangement. And these days, most of us are using cell phones and reading text messages and emails and doing research. So there's the inclination to look down at your phone, but the ideal scenario would be to hold the phone up and look at the phone and move your eyes rather than putting your head way down. That's a whole lot better for your posture. And again, you're less likely to end up with neck pain. Now, here's one activity that you can do to make it easier for you to kind of stretch out and stand up nice and tall. And we'll call it an exercise, but it's my favorite because you get to lay down on our backs and relax for 10 minutes a day. And you just don't want to use a pillow. that's just going to let, your whole body kind of elongate. And you can do that for 10 minutes when you get up in the morning, or 10 minutes before you go to bed. Or if you want to take a break during the course of the day, lay down for 10 minutes without a pillow so you can stretch your body out. Something else we can do, if you find that it's difficult for you to stand up straight, with your shoulders back and your chest out, your abs in, it could be that you need to strengthen some of those smaller supportive muscles that enable you to get in those types of positions. And if you haven't been working those muscles over the course of your life, it can truly be challenging to stand in a good postural position. So what you can do is stand against a wall. You can have a few inches, between the wall and your feet. But as you're standing, you want to press, your head, shoulders, and your bottom back against that wall. And you're absolutely going to feel it in your back and your abdominal muscles, and probably a little bit in your neck as well. But you want to do that and hold it for 20 or 30 seconds, and then repeat it 3, maybe even 4 times. And you can incorporate that into your regular ongoing exercise program, or you could just get in the habit of doing that, every day, when you happen to be near a wall. Okay, so I'm also going to show you some exercises that you can do at home, or if you do have access to a gym, or you live someplace that has an exercise room, these are some exercises that you can do to make it easier for you to maintain good posture. When it comes to exercise, ideally, you want to do a total body workout on a regular basis. So we want to make sure, we're working, our back, our biceps, our triceps, our legs, our abdominal region, our chest. You want to make sure you're working your whole body. But when it comes to the posture, there are some particular areas that we want to place some special attention on. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So anytime you're exercising, whether you are sitting down or standing up, you want to make sure you're standing or sitting up nice and tall when you're doing your exercises. So you want your head, neck, back, all in alignment. We don't want to be leaning over like this. You want to sit up nice and tall or stand up nice and tall. So that's the first thing. That's going to force you to use all of those little supporting muscles that will enable you to maintain that kind of position as you are going about your everyday life. So the first exercise we're going to go over is for our lower back. Our lower back and our abs are, what most people consider to be the core of our bodies. So this is called a straight leg deadlift. You're going to feel this not only in your lower back, but also in your hamstring muscles in the back of your legs. So as you go down, you're going to get a little stretch. You're actually working those hamstring muscles on the way up. And as you can see, in order for you to bend over and stand up, you're going to be working those muscles in your lower back. So you want to make sure that the back is straight. And as you're going up and down, you kind of want to think about poking your chest out. That'll help you keep the back nice and flat and straight. The knees are almost straight, but actually a little bent as you do this particular exercise. And in this image, she's using kettlebells to provide the resistance. If you don't have kettlebells, you could use dumbbells, the hand weights. You could also hold on to a weighted bar. They do sell those in stores. Or if you're just getting started, you don't have to use any kind of weight at all. And believe me, you will feel it the next day. So you could do this without any weight in your hands. And you could do it that way. Or if you wanted to hold a broomstick, you could do that as well if you want to simulate what it's like to do the movement with weights. Now, this exercise is called a bent over row. This is for the muscles in the upper part of your back. You're in the same basic position you were in for the last exercise. Notice the head, the shoulders, and the back are all in alignment. And you're just lifting the weight up slowly and steadily and squeezing your shoulder blades together. She's using a barbell, but you could do this exercise again. If you're just getting started, you could put a broomstick in your hands. You could use kettlebells. You could use dumbbells, or you could use nothing at all. Again, if you're just getting started with the exercise. I don't know if anybody here has done physical therapy before, but in physical therapy, you often use the elastic bands to provide resistance. So you can do that exercise with elastic bands as well. And I'm trying to get to the next slide. Let me see. Here we go. So this is the same exercise using elastic bands. So you got the bands in your hands and you're standing on the band, and then the elastic band is what is providing the resistance as you do this particular movement. So you can come up, you can hold it, and then go down slowly and under control. And as I mentioned before, when you come up, you want to make sure you are squeezing your shoulder blades together, because again, that's what's going to enable you to stand up nice and tall, with your chest out as you are going about your daily life. Now, the next exercise is called a rear deltoid fly. This is also for those muscles in your upper back. And she's doing this with dumbbells. But you can see she's in the same basic position we were in before for the other two exercises. But she's coming up. You want to squeeze the shoulder blades together, pause for just an instant, and then come back down under control. You want to make sure that the weight you choose is one that will enable you to come up slowly and under control, and then lower the weights with the same kind of control. You never want the weights to flop down. You want to have it under control the whole time. And you can do this same movement using those elastic bands. that I showed you with the last exercise. You can stand on the elastic band, put the elastic band in each of your hands, and then you can do that kind of movement as you're leaning over to strengthen those back muscles. Now, the other part of your core is your abdominal muscles. So everybody's heard of crunches. So I'm going to show you two types of crunches. This is a standard crunch where you're going to come up, you're at an angle, but you're kind of reaching like you're touching your chin toward the ceiling. And notice the neck is pretty straight as she's coming up. You don't want to do a whole lot of this while you're doing that exercise. The exercise is not for your neck, it's for your stomach muscles. So you really want most of the motion there, and you want to keep, your head, your neck, your back, all kind of in alignment as you come up slowly and under control. That will help you strengthen your abdominal muscles. And, there are a lot of people who are not comfortable getting down on the floor. So I'm going to show you a variation on that exercise that you can do sitting in a chair. So with just about every strength training exercise, there are ways that we can modify it to accommodate any sort of previous injury or physical limitation. So if you start doing an exercise and you're feeling pain, you want to look for an alternative way to work those same muscles. If there's an exercise, that someone shows you and it requires you to get on the floor and you're not comfortable getting on the floor, there's always a way that you can modify it to make it, more comfortable for you, but still be effective. So just make sure you ask for help if you need ways to modify an exercise so that it's more appropriate for you as an individual. So this is a seated crunch. So you notice she's sitting in a chair, but she's still kind of crunching down and tightening up those abdominal muscles as she goes up and down. And you'll feel that, just like you would feel a crunch on the floor. One other variation of this exercise, which can make it a little easier to do the right kind of movement, is rather than have, your arms up here with nothing under them, you can get a big exercise ball and put it in here. And then you can crunch down on the exercise ball, squeeze it, and then come back up. Squeeze it and come back up. And you could get the same kind of results that you would doing crunches on the floor. So, we've addressed the muscles in our upper back, our lower back, as well as our core muscles. The last part of this that's very important when it comes to your posture is ensuring that your chest muscles are nice and loose. Because if your chest muscles are tight, it makes it hard for you to get your shoulders back. If your chest muscles are too tight and your back muscles are weak, you're much more likely to end up hunched over. And so we want to make sure that the back muscles are strong, and the chest muscles are flexible. So this is a good exercise to help you kind of open up those chest muscles and make sure that you have the flexibility you need to maintain good posture. So you can stand right in a doorway, put your arm on the side of the door, and then we're just going to turn our body away from the doorway, where you got your arm resting, and you will feel a stretch throughout your arm as well as your chest. So after you've done that several times on one side, you can go ahead and switch and do the other side. So we always want to focus on maintaining balance. So if you work your right side, you want to make sure you work your left side. And it's also true that if we work muscles on the front of the body, we want to make sure we work muscles on the back. Now, here is another stretch that you can do for your chest muscles. With the hands behind the back, with the palms down, and you're going to push down and look toward the sky, and you will feel that stretching out all those muscles in your chest. And this is the same exercise, just looking at it from the front. Okay. All right. So here is a little summary. To minimize, the height loss over the course of our lives, first thing we can do is focus on our posture throughout the course of our day. That's the first thing. We can do weight-bearing exercises at least 3 times per week. And as I stated, it's anything where you're working against the force of gravity. So it could be walking, dancing, jump rope, lifting weights. You can do exercises where you use your own body weight for resistance. If you have grandchildren, you can push them around in their stroller. You can do things even like gardening to work against the force of gravity. And as long as you're pushing and pulling and really working, that's good for your bones. That will minimize the likelihood that you'll end up with excessive bone loss and osteoporosis related height loss. And then finally, we went over a number of exercises that we can do to enhance our posture. So you want to make sure we are strengthening our core, which includes our abdominal muscles, our stomach muscles, and our lower back. We want to strengthen our upper back, and we want to make sure that we are always staying nice and flexible. It's great to be flexible all over your body, but when it comes to your posture, you want to make sure that your chest muscles are flexible as well. Now, does anyone have any questions related to anything that we have discussed today?
Thank you, Bentley. We have a few questions that have come in. One question is asking if there are any medications that can contribute to bone loss.
There are medications that can contribute to bone loss. I would suggest that you talk to your doctor about that, but the answer is absolutely yes. And if you start reading the labels on your medication, sometimes, it makes you a little fearful about taking it. But generally, the side effects are, a lot less pronounced than the positive benefits. So I would just advise you to talk to your doctor about medications that you're currently taking to find out if any of them can have the impact of reducing your bone density.
And definitely don't stop taking those medications if you read those labels, of course. But there are medications that you wouldn't even expect. Sometimes medications for stomach issues, diabetes medication, corticosteroids. But as Bentley mentioned, the risk versus the benefit is often, it's important to continue those medications until you've spoken with your doctor. So just a reminder not to just stop them, for sure.
Yeah, because there are always things you can do. You know, if you're taking medication that encourages bone loss, your doctor can give you medication that helps you gain bone density. So that is an option there.
Great. Someone's asking, they had a bone density test about 2 years ago now. How often should someone get a bone density test?
I believe that the recommendation is annually. But if, again, you know, if you go to your doctor and they say you have an issue and they start a treatment plan, I wouldn't be surprised if they have you come in for testing more frequently than a year to make sure that the treatment is working properly.
Okay. Someone is asking, aside from dairy, of course, has high calcium, what other foods are rich in calcium?
Oh, wow.
I know I can, go ahead.
Well, I know about broccoli. I mentioned that earlier. Let me take a look here.
I can help you answer that one a little bit, I think.
Please.
You know, the leafy greens, so spinach, kale are super high in calcium. Foods that you wouldn't even really think of, like salmon, nuts, are high in calcium. Tofu is another great way to get calcium into your diet. And even beans, especially black beans, have calcium or are calcium rich. So, you know, especially if somebody's lactose intolerant and they need to find a different source of calcium to get the necessary nutrients, there are many other foods out there that can provide that for you as well. Sorry, I didn't mean to answer for you, but I thought.
Oh, I appreciate it. And you mentioned the beans. We have more and more people in our society these days who are vegetarian or vegan, and they may eat a lot of beans in their diet. I just wanted to make sure that you know that if you are eating beans to get your protein, you need to make sure you pair it with some rice or some other carbohydrate, grain-based carbohydrate, in order for your body to be able to produce the protein that you need in your diet. You can't just eat the beans.
Thank you for that. Someone's thanking you for all of those great exercises that you provided. And their question is, you say multiple times through the week, but should they be done more often or more than once a day?
Some of these exercises you can certainly do more than once a day. I mean, the more active we are in general, the better. I think when people talk about exercise, they tend to give kind of like the minimal requirements, because sometimes it's a challenge to get people to do that. So, I mean, when it comes to strength training, you know, the ideal would be for you to do 3 or 4 actual workouts throughout the course of the week. You want to make sure that you don't work the same muscle groups really hard, you know, multiple days in a row, because your body does need time to recover. But if you're doing simple activities like stretching in the doorway or standing against a wall and, you know, tightening up those muscles so you can press your whole body against the wall, I mean, that's something you can do multiple times a day, and you can do that every day. When it comes to things like walking, jogging, riding a stationary bike, doing an elliptical trainer, those are also things you can do every day to stay as active as possible. You just don't want to fully exhaust the same muscle groups multiple days in a row without taking a break. I hope that answered the question.
I think it did. And I think sometimes looking at those exercises that you shared can be a bit daunting to people, especially older individuals that see people doing positions and exercises and they think there's no way I can do that. So just realizing that there is no one, excuse me, prescription for everybody. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. That when you're working with a trainer, that they will individualize your program and meet you where your capabilities are. So not to be overwhelmed by, certain types of exercises, or thinking because of your age that you might not be able to do something. That's the beauty of working with a personal trainer in particular, that they can modify exercises to meet you where you're at. So just want to point that out as well. Any tips on making exercises more fun for preventing osteoporosis? I like you mentioned dancing. I thought that was a fun way to still get you exercising in.
Yeah, you can be exercising and not really realizing you're exercising because it's fun. You can also walk with friends or family members and get into discussions, and you'll lose track of time. If you are still working and you have meetings, with colleagues, maybe you walk while you are doing your meeting to make the time pass quicker. Also, it can be boring if you get on a treadmill or get on a bike and you sit there for 30 minutes straight doing the same activity. There are a lot of people that get bored with that. So you can mix up your exercise and do something like a circuit workout, where you may only be on the bike for 2 or 3 or 4 minutes, and then you hop off and you do another exercise, maybe some strength training, and then you get back on the bike for a few more minutes and then get off and do another exercise, so you don't get into a rut. And the time does tend to pass a lot faster when you're doing that kind of routine. And you also want to try new things for your physical activity. We just want you to move. So you can feel free to get creative. I mentioned gardening earlier. You can do casual gardening, but I'm sure if you wanted to get more of a workout, you could move a little faster and maybe dig the holes with a little more gusto. And maybe you give yourself a little time limit to do certain things, so that you can kind of be competing with yourself over time, doing an activity that you enjoy, but you can turn it into exercise. Same thing with with housework. When I was a kid, one of my jobs was vacuuming our steps each week. And I kind of challenged myself to do it as quickly as I possibly could, because I hated doing it. But of course, my dad would always come to inspect it at the end. So I would do it as fast as possible, but no faster. And it actually was a physical activity. So, there are a myriad of options to make your workouts more interesting, more fun, and something that you want to stick with over time.
Excellent. And I appreciate that you brought up posture, because that is definitely something we see changing with individuals as we age, that can be repairable, as you mentioned. And we've done some presentations about posture in the past. You mentioned lying on your back, but I just want to point out that as a therapist, it's also equally, I feel, important to spend some time on your stomach. That as we get older, we don't often do that. So our hamstrings get tight, our chest muscles get tight. So if you're able to tolerate it and able to breathe well and spend some time on your stomach, I think that's also a good thing to point out too, in regards to posture. So worth mentioning as well. But
yeah, and this morning I focused on particular exercises that are especially important to maintain good posture. But we really do want to have an exercise program that works, our entire body from head to toe. It helps us maintain strength as well as flexibility. And the good thing about the strength training exercises that help you with posture, they also put your body under a load, so they help your bones stay strong as well. So you're less likely to have really porous bones that collapse on themselves. You don't want them to compress. So it'll reduce the likelihood that you're going to develop osteoporosis as well, which is another cause of height loss. So all these things can kind of work together to keep us as healthy, strong, and as tall as possible.
So we don't have to hang upside down by those contraptions to try to grow taller, but we do need to work at maintaining our height that we have, it sounds like, right? So.
Well, yes. And you can hang upside down or maybe at a slight angle if it doesn't make you faint to kind of stretch out your back and decompress the vertebra in your back. I mean, you can do that, but you can accomplish some of the same things just by laying down flat on the bed, on your back, or as you said, on your stomach.
Great. Thank you so much for the information you shared today, Bentley. And for our Kendal at Home members, if you're interested in your personal training benefit to not only work on maintaining your height, but working on fall prevention, then certainly reach out to your care coordinator and they will schedule with Benefit and our other providers here in Ohio as well to be able to bring that benefit to your home. So thank you for being here. We look forward to having you join us again. And thank you everyone for taking time to be with us today.